All right, today we're diving deep into the ancient Pali text to unpack a single powerful word, a word that holds a pretty radical promise, the idea that all our suffering can actually end. And that word is Nirodha. You know that feeling when you're stuck in traffic or just completely overwhelmed by stress? Maybe there's a noise that just won't quit, and all you want is for it to just stop? Well, that deep, universal desire for something difficult to simply end, that's exactly where our journey begins today.
So the Pali word is Nirodha. And yeah, on the surface, it translates pretty simply to cessation or ending. But what's really fascinating is this other meaning it has, confinement. It kind of suggests it's not just about stopping something, but about containing it, corralling it to bring it to a final end. As we're about to see, its full meaning goes way deeper than any single English word can really capture.
Okay, so where does this whole idea come from? To really, truly understand Nirodha, you have to place it right at the very heart of Buddhist philosophy, inside one of its most foundational teachings.
See, Nirodha isn't just some vague philosophical idea. It's presented as the direct solution to life's biggest problem. The Four Noble Truths lay it all out like a doctor's diagnosis. The first truth says, here's the problem, suffering. The second says, here's what's causing it. And then number 3, Nirodha, comes in and boldly declares, guess what? There's an end to that suffering. It is the crucial turning point, right where we pivot from the problem to the solution.
And this is not a minor point. Not at all. As this quote right from the Pali Canon shows, the Buddha declared the truth of Dukkha Nirodha, the cessation of suffering, as an absolute, certain teaching, a core promise stated without any wiggle room, without any reservation. So the big question is, how does it actually work?
Right. This promise of an end naturally leads us to the next question. How does something actually cease? What's the mechanism here?
This Pali phrase, it's the core mechanic. It's this simple, really elegant formula of cause and effect, but in reverse. With the cessation of this, that ceases. Basically, things don't just stop randomly. They stop because you remove their underlying cause. You take away the fuel, the fire goes out. It's that simple. And that principle is the engine that drives Nirodha.
And this whole process, it's not like flipping a switch. It's a progressive, step-by-step path. The texts lay out these 9 successive cessations that are achieved in really deep meditation. You start with the coarser stuff, like sense desire and runaway thoughts. Then, as the mind gets quieter and quieter, you move to ceasing the perception of form, then space, then consciousness itself, until you get to the final stage where even perception and feeling come to this complete, totally peaceful stop.
Okay, this is where it gets really, really practical. The Pali commentaries don't just talk about one kind of cessation. Nope, they actually give us a whole toolkit, a sophisticated set of 5 distinct methods for bringing things to an end in our own minds.
First up is cessation by suppression. The best way to think of this is like hitting pause on all those negative mental states. When someone's in deep meditation, things like desire or aversion are held back. They're not gone forever, but for that period of time, they are completely inactive, which allows for this incredible peace and clarity to come through.
Method number 2 is cessation by substitution. And this one is a moment-to-moment practice you can do anytime. An unwholesome thought pops up, and you actively, consciously replace it with its wholesome opposite. So, for example, you meet a flash of anger with a deliberate thought of loving kindness, and in that very moment, the anger ceases because its opposite has just taken its place.
Now we get to the really profound one, cessation by cutting off. This isn't temporary. This isn't just swapping one thought for another. This is the permanent eradication of the very roots of our suffering. We're talking greed, hatred, and delusion. The texts say this happens at the moment of enlightenment. It's final. It's done.
So, what happens right after you cut that root? Well, that's the 4th type, cessation by tranquilization. This is that state of deep, deep peace and calm that comes immediately after a defilement has been permanently destroyed. It's like the serene afterglow of a battle that's been won for good.
And finally, we have cessation by escape. Now, this isn't just another tool in the box. This is the ultimate goal. This is the final release from the entire cycle of suffering. It's the state that's achieved when everything that needed to be cut off has been. And this ultimate cessation is, in fact, just another name for nibbana.
And that brings us to our final and really crucial point. How do these 2 massive concepts, Nirodha and Nibbana, actually relate to each other? You know, the distinction is actually simple, but it's incredibly profound. Nirodha is the doing, and Nibbana is the result. Nirodha is the active process, it's the verb, it's the path of bringing suffering to an end. Nibbana is the state you arrive at once that process is complete. It's the destination.
And this verse from the canon just ties it all together beautifully. It describes the destruction of craving and dispassion as being the same thing as Nirodha and Nibbanam. The process and the goal are talked about in the exact same breath because really, they're just two sides of the very same coin of liberation. So let's be super clear here. Nirodha isn't about annihilation. It's not about becoming nothing. It's the profound, unshakable peace that just naturally arises when the causes of our stress and distress finally cease. It's not about fighting the flames of suffering. It's about the simple, natural result of finally removing the fuel.
And all of this leaves us with one final and pretty provocative question. The texts tell us that everything that arises, everything that's conditioned, is subject to this law of cessation. So, if all of that ceases, what's left? What remains? Now that's a question worth pondering.